if I wasn't on camera, I could probably use some different words to explain that first year. You do find, you're investing a lot of money and there becomes a lot on the line.
I like that. I'm here with Lachlan Selwood from Kave Home. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. We've been long-time friends. I'm really looking forward to this conversation today.
Likewise.
How did Kave Home all come about and what led to us sitting here in this beautiful showroom in James Street in Fortitude Valley in Brisbane?
We were actually overseas about 15 years ago in China at a trade show, and we walked onto this stand, and it was an amazing company from Barcelona, and we loved their product, loved their concept and their influence on technology, and wanted to be a bit more modern in the industry. One thing led to another with a great discussion, and from there we made the tough decision to get on a plane to Barcelona and go and meet them, and from there one thing led to another, and 15 years later here we are.
So this is a 15-year journey to this showroom. So who were you with, like what business were you with at the time when you were attending the trade show in China when you discovered Kave Home?
Sure, so we were actually originally a more of a traditional wholesaler, and looking for products and trying to find ways to diversify the business. So when we met Julia Group and learned a lot about their concept at the time, it was a real eye opener, and really felt like it could lead to our business going into a new direction, which then sort of fast forward another sort of 5-7 years, that sort of business evolved into Kave Home today, which was all about not having a glass ceiling on the business and being a wholesaler and becoming a brand. And at that, becoming a global brand where we could start introducing some influence on the customer experience and what we wanted to become. Yeah,
Kave Home is a beautiful brand with amazing products. So it's furniture and homewares and decor. Julia Group, you mentioned, is the international owner of the Kave Home brand, and you have the Australian exclusive distribution license for Kave Home. Yeah,
correct.
Cool, awesome. So you're an owner of the business, and what is the biggest risk you've ever made in terms of investment or a risk you've taken on the business, and did it pay off in the 15 years? That you've talked about?
Look, without a doubt, the biggest risk we took was that transformation and that evolving from being a wholesale business to becoming a brand.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that when you're in an industry, and you're working with different models within the industry, you can always look at the situation and go, yeah, we can do that, or we know a little bit about that. But once you actually dive into it, and all of a sudden you've got new departments in your business, such as marketing departments, retail stores, you've added an e-commerce element to the business, you really quickly realize that there's a hell of a lot that you don't know, and it can be quite intimidating and quite an uphill journey. So that risk was a real challenge. We also decided to really make that leap right after the pandemic that hit us, which was perfectly in line with one of the biggest downturns in our industry in history. So, but through that process, we learned a lot.
So forged in fire.
Absolutely, and and we are very we are in a really advantageous position that we had a lot of support from Julia Group in Spain, and their learning and what they could share with us about the success of the model and where we needed to improve and add resources into the business. That was vital. However, certainly, that biggest risk has also been our biggest blessing and our biggest payoff, because where we are today, we still feel like we're at square one, and there's just so much more to go, and we can truly see both what's happening globally and in Australia, and really believe we've got some really high heights which we're going to reach.
Yeah, cool. So some of those challenges that you mentioned feel like entire businesses, in themselves, right? You talked about adding in e-commerce, which for a lot of businesses, that's their entire business. And you talked about adding in retail stores, and that for some businesses, that's their whole business. So yeah, I can imagine that was just an absolutely massive transition for you and the business. Is there something, through this process that you'd wish you'd done earlier?
Something I think we'd wish we'd done earlier was understanding our level and the positioning that we wanted to be at, and really incorporating that into the business as quick as possible. I think it's easy to, at times, hesitate on certain decisions, and I believe it can be daunting to sort of make that leap into where you can be and where you can achieve. And I guess to a degree, we could see what was happening on a global scale, and we had 100% belief that we could achieve the same. However, we could have made leaps quicker, I think, and just could have been a bit more brave in diving into things.
Is that spending money, hiring people, or making decisions to enter markets?
Yeah, I think it's about the way it is in decision making on processes and understanding who we are and what we want to be. I don't think you can be everything to everyone, and it's easy to fall into that trap. I think it's also really hard to leave old ways of doing things behind when you've got a team of people that have done things in a particular way, particularly with certain customer categories. Certain ways that we market ourselves, and understanding where we sit in the market as well, and what customers are the ones that we want to be talking to. It can be really hard to sometimes update the focus and really start targeting on where we know we need to be, as opposed to getting the most out of where we are today. And I think we're doing that in a really much better way today, and that's certainly bringing us a lot of success, which is exciting.
Yeah, cool. So just an absolutely massive metamorphosis for the business, right? And so you're saying, after you've made that decision, which was absolutely huge, transformation of the business from a wholesaler to a retailer and an e-commerce business with a whole new brand, whole new product, and all the rest of it. There were times where you felt like you just needed to back those new sets of decisions and make them faster.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you really believe in what you're doing and where you're heading, you sort of really need to take the handbrakes off and release the shackles, so to speak, and really just drive towards that as fast as you possibly can. Because we found that the faster we've transformed into what we are today, the more success we're having, but also the clearer our horizon is becoming. And it all starts to make much more sense. And then you look back at it even just last year or 2 years ago, and we sit here and go, wow, we've come so far, but there's still so much further to go. And now I think we're a lot better about taking our foot off the brakes and really just pushing forward to what our goals are and where we know we need to be.
Yeah, I feel like velocity is huge in business. Generally, honestly, like you can do everything perfectly, but if you don't do it fast enough, you lose.
Sure.
You can make quite a few mistakes, but if you beat everybody else,
sure,
you still win overall. Or you could. You might get lucky.
Can be.
Is there something about running a business that you felt like nobody told you about, and it was a bit of a gotcha moment?
I think nobody really ever tells you about how it's going to feel that moment that you realize you've actually got a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. Over a long period of time, things keep building, things get bigger. You have more staff, you have more assets in the business or liabilities in the business. You have you've got a team of people that you really care about. You've also got a company and customers that you really care about. And all of a sudden it starts to hit you that, wow, well, we've got a lot to lose now, and we've got to keep this whole thing humming. And I think when that responsibility really hits your shoulders, and as everybody says, that's when the sleepless nights start creeping in, and I'm sure you've had a few yourself, and it's, well, not you, because you've never had an issue to worry about, right? But
absolutely not.
But yeah, I think that sort of start to hit, because it does really feel like you wake up one day and you just sort of go, oh wow, this is something, and this is pretty important, and there's a lot of people that are really dedicated here and working hard, and it's kind of, we've got a lot to lose, but also we've got so much to achieve, and so that's exciting and terrifying at the same time. And I don't think there's much out there to really prepare you for that moment once that starts to happen. Yeah.
That was really well said. I think it definitely hammers home a little bit. I I was sort of thinking of the boiling frog that doesn't realise it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and then all of a sudden it's really hot, and you're like, this is a serious situation. And yeah, running a business I think is a little bit like that, because it's just it gradually builds up, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, this is like we make mistakes here, and it really affects people. Yeah,
totally.
But like you said before, you got to keep going at speed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there something that's much more important to you in running a business than perhaps people would think?
Probably, perhaps not. I think one of the most important things to us at the moment has certainly been our staff, and I know that might sound really cliche, but we are very blessed to have an amazing team of some really dedicated key people that also take the responsibility on their shoulders, and I think you really need that. You need that network around you of people that are sharing the load, that are 100% passionate and committed, and they have to really be really engaged in what they do. And I think that really pays unbelievable dividends, and also just really helps to keep driving the company forward if you can integrate that, and it's certainly not easy, but at the same time, once you start to get that right, things start to happen a lot more smoothly.
I mean, you were just telling me before we started this interview, we're looking around the showroom, and I was complimenting it because the details are amazing. It's a really sort of unique, odd shape. But when you actually take the time to look at the framework of the building, but it just feels great to be in here. And you mentioned that it was totally done in-house, with the team that you've got. So it's just a testament to that passion, that you were talking about, and teamwork. Yeah,
totally.
And I know what you mean in terms of just you can be as motivated as you want. Get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but if it's always coming from you, it's going to run out, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's also because, when you've got people in the organisation that really just live and breathe it, they take that responsibility. So, because you can't be over everything all the time, but knowing that there's people that really care about functions, whether it's your warehouse and you've got someone, in our case, our warehouse is in Melbourne, so it's 2 states away from where we are now, and we need to know that that's functioning, and that's the engine, one of the many engine rooms of the business. So we need to know that that's functioning, and so having really dedicated, responsible people that really care and really also are totally in line with the vision of what we want this company to become, and not just what we're becoming, that are also in line with what we're trying to achieve globally. I think that's just so important, and we can really see the difference that it's made in a big way.
Do you do any sort of vision setting, or do you communicate any of that sort of throughout the company?
Yeah, we certainly try. I think that's something that's surprisingly more difficult than people realise, or at least in our case, I think it's an area that we're constantly every year trying to improve on. The whole strategizing of the business it can be a real challenge, because it's, and I also think actually that's probably one of the reasons why there is so many business books out there and publications that are on this topic of how do you develop strategy and implement it in your business. And I think there's so much of it just because it's something that's really difficult for a lot of us to do, and so we certainly do it in our way with having a one-page plan and then breaking it down by the departments, and we try to bring the whole company together when we can, at least once a year or every second year, to all in the one space, because we've got people all over the country. So just so that we can have that physical connection and talk about, right, where are we now? Where do we want to be heading in the short term and long term? What's happening overseas with the brand? Because having that alignment and everybody knowing where we're going is super important, so that then we can make sure that hopefully we're doing the right things in order to get us there. And that's something that inherently I think is a lot harder than a lot of people realise, and something that we're certainly still working on every year, because that's certainly what can really help the business move forward in a big way.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing how humans respond so amazingly to physical connection, and it's just become so obvious, in post-COVID with all of the, the international experiments on work from home and hybrid and in the office and all the rest of it. And yeah, I mean, humans love to be together,
Mate, I think so too. And it's one of it is a challenge of ours because we do have staff in, Sunshine Coast, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. And it's, keeping everybody together and keeping them connected is super important. And obviously technology's helped a lot with us being able to have, video meetings all day long and all that kind of thing. But no, I totally agree. It's really important that we're able to, connect physically and that the staff know that they're part of something bigger. And it's something that, we do put a lot of value on, especially because in our case, it's not always easy to achieve that. And certainly, I think we have seen that our staff really do respond well and really do appreciate that they know that we care about bringing people together when we can. It's a big thing. Yeah. It's a really big thing.
Is it a big party, the annual or biennial?
Well, mate, last year we had it in our warehouse, so I think that was really exciting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Everyone to see. But yeah, look, we are blessed that we really all get along, and and making people actually connect with each other and learn more about each other, and knowing who they're working with. Because I mean, hey, it is true. We all spend a lot of time at work, and we want people to enjoy it while they're here. We are in a really lovely industry, being in the world of design and fashion and. Sort of making people happy by their homes and businesses and spaces, sort of improving, hopefully, with Kave Home products. But it's really nice to think that people can also, enjoy their time and connect with their colleagues while they're here.
Yeah. So it's interesting, actually, you're talking about how your brand brings joy to people, and it's nice to be in that kind of industry. And just got me thinking because, weddings are on the decline.
Really?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Obviously people still getting married and it's a wonderful thing and all the rest of it.
No,
but by the numbers, they're definitely
sure.
on the decline. And you think about like these important, like massive milestone moments in people's lives, like kitting out a home with beautiful Kave Home furniture has got to be like one of those really integral, momentous moments, for people, right? So
definitely. I mean, we do try to remind ourselves about what it is that we're sort of trying to achieve. And one of the things at the moment is we sort of want to build that emotional connection with our customers to know that we really care about having the opportunity to be part of their world and also that to understand that what we're actually doing is trying to create that sanctuary. I mean, hence the name of Kave Home. It's sort of a bit of an ode to mankind's first sanctuary was a cave, and that's where we first lived. And building that, understanding that that's actually something that's really an integral part of what we're doing, makes a difference in the decisions that we make in the way our stores are set up and how the experience is online and how we're managing customer service. I sometimes like to remind our teams that to a degree, anybody can have a beautiful product. There's obviously a lot in that and I respect that, but the difference can be in our service and our connection with our customers and how our staff feel about what it is that they're integrating with. And I think that tone is certainly set globally with Kave, and it's something that I've learned a lot. We've always felt like all the way from Julia Group in Barcelona to us, I mean, we're both family-owned companies, and so we a lot of the culture, I suppose, that we set and the tone about what we do and that passion and having a high degree of care, I'd like to think that gets through and resonates with customers, and that's what actually can make the difference these days.
Lachlan, can you tell me, is there a business trend that you think is overrated?
Integrating AI, thinking it's going to solve your problems. And probably where I come to with that is there's obviously some credible AI out there, and hey, we're investing in it as well, both on the consumer front and in the operation side of the business. But I think we can all agree there's nothing worse than a terrible AI chatbot that doesn't actually sort of serve its purpose and whatnot. And I think it's certainly easy for a lot of small and medium businesses to get sucked into, I know, I'll just throw AI at that and think it's gonna fix things. And I know that really frustrates me whenever I come across really poor AI that doesn't actually sort of solve the customer's problem, I suppose, and only sometimes makes that worse. So in my opinion, when the customer's just desperate to talk to a human being to deal with their problem, and then you've got a 19-level AI survey to try to get through. I think I'm seeing a lot of that I'm just not sure is serving its purpose in my opinion. But certainly not anti-AI. We're very pro technology. I just think in the wrong area, it perhaps shouldn't be used. And certainly we, although we do, like I said, integrate AI as well, I think we're just trying to make sure that we still integrate that human connection with our customers as much as possible, and suppliers, and everywhere that's what's actually necessary.
Yeah. So we can't expect to see an AI bot on the Kave Home website that leads to a deep fake video avatar of you talking.
You never know. You hopefully you will one day, but hopefully when that day comes, it works really well and actually it is a really positive customer experience.
We'll all be out of a job by then, so the AI will be running everything.
I think that's the secret. It's just that it has to actually solve the problem you're trying to solve, and it has to be a good experience for the customer more than anything.
Yeah.
I think that's the secret to AI.
What's your non-negotiable in your daily routine? Is there one thing you absolutely have to do, or the day is a disaster for you?
I'm a bit of a stickler for having a clean email inbox.
Okay, you're inbox zero kind of guy.
Try to be, or at least all filed, or at least at the very least know what's in there. I struggle to rest easy knowing that there's 20, 50 emails in there that are just piling up, and it's one thing that makes it really hard when you go on holiday and you're trying to switch off, but I know the emails are coming in, and I feel like I'm not organized and on top of my day if I don't know what's going on with my email inbox, more or less. I'm just that's one thing for me, but I'm the same on my phone as well. I don't like to leave unread text messages and things like that, so just it makes me feel messy.
I'm gonna be a nice guy and not show you my inbox. Don't want to stress you out.
I'm sure it's perfect, and I get that everybody manages in their own way, and certainly, hey, I'm not telling anybody how to manage their email inbox. I like to file things. I'm a filer. I'm that kind of guy. But when I see certain colleagues' inboxes and there's just email sitting there from ages, and I look at it and I go, but what's that? And they go, oh no, we don't need that. I go, but how do you know? Anyway, so that's a bit of a thing for me. And I'd probably also say just I certainly like to make sure that I touch base with at least our operations manager who runs the business with me, and a lot of our other managers in the business as well. I like to at least have one touch point with them. It's just important for me to just
on like a daily basis.
Feel like on the ground, know what's going on. I feel like that happens naturally though. It's not something I have to wake up and think about and go, make sure I do this.
But you'd feel weird if you got sort of almost through the end of the day and you hadn't.
And I think if when Katrina and I would catch up the next day, it'd always be like, so how was yesterday? We would both naturally ask those questions, and but I think that's a natural product of just really being in and on the business every day.
Is there something that you'd never do again in the business? You either did it once, or you might have even have done it multiple times, but you've drawn a line and you'd never do again.
That's a long list. I think from a high level, just based on where we've come from, I mean, our company's been in Australia for around 23 to 25 years now, and seen a few different sides of the business and in different areas of the market. I probably think a non-negotiable for me now, though, is just us being in control of our own destiny, as in not getting exclusive in certain areas of the business, not pigeonholing us into only being able to do sort of one thing, making sure that we're always, the horizon's the limit, and we really have got the ability and in control to take direction wherever we want to go.
Okay.
I think that's really important.
Yeah. So maintaining agency, for the company, and not letting other entities sort of have too much of a control over the destiny or the operations of the business.
Exactly right, and I think the point is, Kave has really expanded our horizons as a company, and it's got a long way to go, and that's part of the most exciting thing of it, and so we know that we're currently in control and have the ability to take the business and the brand to really amazing places, and I just wouldn't want to ever incorporate certain aspects of our model, for example, that would restrict us in being able to do that. We want to make sure that we can be flexible, and the sky's the limit for us.
Okay. So you're a chess player and you're leaving a lot of different angles open on the board.
To a degree, perhaps.
What's one of the best investments you've ever made in the business?
Yeah. Oh, look, and for sure it is, developing our agreement and license agreement with Julia Group in Spain. I think the benefit to that is that the resources that they bring, being part of something bigger, the support and direction and to a degree all aspects of the business, and has been so invaluable. Being part of something bigger is really special, quite romantic at times. We talk about. And that also just sort of led us to understanding that, having partnerships in the business, we have 2 partnerships with marketing agencies at the moment, for example, both really amazing companies. And I think that they, it opens you up to realizing that there's resources out there that can really support to grow the business and ensure you've got more resources and knowledge coming into the company that can help you grow and scale as well. So I think that's something that has been a real blessing for us, and it is. You do find you're investing a lot of money and there becomes a lot on the line, but ultimately I think that investment in joining a global alliance, so to speak, and a partnership with Julia Group in Spain has been really invaluable and for sure the best decision we've ever made.
Now, people may not have any sort of comprehension of what it actually means to engage in a partnership like that with Julia Group and Kave Home internationally.
Sure.
Just to give us some idea, like how many or how long did it take to come to an agreement? After you started this conversation.
It was probably pretty quick. I guess probably within around 6 months.
Okay.
And just because the nature of time difference and geographical differences and whatnot, we've always been very lucky to hold a really close relationship with with the team at Julia Group, and it's been a massive learning curve, both for them, I'm sure, but and for us on what we can achieve. And what we are now as Kave Home and a global brand is very different to what it was when Kave Home didn't exist, when we first came to the agreement with them. So understanding that evolution and believing in their strategy and what they were doing, and believing that can work here, and then making those investments, sure. And like I said, we sort of made those investments in Kave right after COVID, which was a really tricky time. And
it must have been terrifying.
If I wasn't on camera, I could probably use some different words. I could probably use some different words to explain that first year. But also the learning experience was invaluable, and feeling like we had the global Kave Home network to sort of learn from and lean upon to sort of get us through those stages and keep us on path has been, was really vital.
Did you worry about the viability of the business through COVID after investing all of that money and then having that happen?
Definitely. There's times where, where you look at that and it was sort of like, wow, are we ever going to be able to get this brand off the ground and getting that, daily turnover up where we can, start to pay for all this, I suppose, and start to see that return. And there was a lot of lessons there, because and like I sort of said at the start, and this is why our biggest risk was kind of turned into, was by far the biggest opportunity as well. But just the lessons in what are the right levers to focus on to start getting the business in the right direction. And a lot of that for us was in that brand awareness, brand positioning, working with the right marketing people to get e-commerce happening, learning a lot the hard way about retail. Retail is a really fascinating beast and a super challenge, and we're extremely proud of where we've got to with that now, and very aware there's a long way to go. So I think doing all this on your own is certainly achievable, and there's a lot of amazing companies that have done that. But being able to have a global partner behind you to support you through that, has certainly been, a really invaluable investment for us. And now learning through that experience and knowing we can sort of lean on that as we move forward and where we want Kave to be, which is still, we've got a really long way to go. We still inherently believe we're at square one at the moment here. And I believe that, Julia Group still believe that Kave Home's more or less still at early stages globally for what we can actually achieve here. So it's very exciting, and something that I think, we sort of learned that being open to those partnerships and alliances, so to speak, and how they can help your business, whether it be branding, whether it be logistics or marketing or other aspects of the business. They're not always to be, to shy away from. Depending on how you're setting up the model, they can really add a lot of value and a lot of benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of a minefield to tread through in terms of making the decisions to balance both of those two broad aspects that you've talked about. One where it's sort of seeking out, taking advantage of really high impact potential partnerships, but then maintaining all of the agency and control and allowing your business to keep its strategic direction and having that control as well. So that sounds like a difficult balance to manage.
Yeah, and I think it's because of a little bit like what I sort of said before about, no one prepares you for what that's going to feel like when the responsibility keeps getting bigger and bigger and then it falls on your shoulder. And at the end of the day, it's still our investment. We do feel a responsibility to the global brand and what we need to achieve and to what standard, and that's a real positive responsibility though, because we really believe in it and we're extremely passionate about it. And however, it's that balance between understanding that, hey, it is our business, we're responsible for our own destiny and what we achieve and executing it correctly on the ground here. And so, as I said, we run out, we've got, our own supply chain departments, warehousing operations, customer service, marketing. It's all happening here in Australia. But it's also about where you can get learnings and economies of scale and these partnerships to assist you to get speed and to really grow and move forward at the right pace. And I think what it's also really given us is a bit of almost like a mentorship as well. I'm personally really big on mentors. I've been very lucky to have amazing mentors around my life and still do today, and that's really important both on lots of levels, mentors in family, mentors in business, and mentors in friends. And I think that's something as well that, being open to, sort of working with people can bring that to you, because, business is hard. Otherwise we'd all be doing it and we'd all be super successful. So, being able to sort of share that and learn and improve every day and be better and recognize that every time you think you're getting somewhere, you're still at square one and there's just so much more to go. I think that's something that's just so inherently important important to me and what we've been able to achieve as a business and what's important to us.
So it's the beginner's mindset, I think they call it, in the Zen philosophy, which is really cool. Have you sought and gained like structured mentorship, or is it something that's happened naturally as an evolution of sort of carrying out the business?
A bit of both, but yeah, definitely. Have always, like I said, been in a position where I've had natural mentors in my life, and that's something that I don't want to take for granted, I suppose. And also the moment we developed the partnership with Julia Group in Spain, that also brought new mentorships to me, and also mentorships to other people in our company as well, which is also a really amazing thing. But then I also sought out other mentorships as well. There's a great book that I like called The Fearless Monkey, and I was lucky to get introduced to the author, a Dutch guy by the name of Dennis Hein, and he actually recently did a TED Talk in Barcelona, which I think is great. And he also was great to be able to. I was lucky for him to be able to work with me a little bit, and still do today. And he just, I think mentors really can help to bounce things off you and make sure you're staying on the right path, I suppose. Like Dennis, one of his concepts which I really like and he really introduced to me was, you have to have speed to dodge trees. And what he's talking about there is, in business you're starting at the top of the mountain, and the only option you don't have is staying at the top of the mountain, or you'll die. You're gonna have to go down. And with a bit of speed, you might tumble, you might slalom perfectly, but at the end of the day, you've got to go down the mountain and you've got to make decisions and you've got to move forward. And that's great. And I think having people to sort of bounce that off and learn, it gives you confidence, and it helps you give confidence to the rest of your team as well. And yeah, it just keeps everything humming. And I think just, I think and most times in life as well, your mentors are doing amazing things. So they're inspiring and they keep you motivated.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. I mean, I'm someone that gets motivated by lots of sources around me, and I think and I think the mentors play a big part of that. They make you wake up every day and recognize that, hey, there's still so much you can achieve, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, Bridget calls them expanders or things like that. The people that you find that, because there's mentors, and then there's also that aspect of seeing somebody do something where it makes you believe that's real, that can actually be done as well. Yeah.
I probably would say though that I think, and I think I've fallen into this a little bit, to be honest, but I think it's super important to have mentors that are going to be honest with you as well. They can't just be, people that are going to, just agree with you and say, yeah, you're doing great, keep it up. I mean, I feel that in my case, it's been great that my network of mentors around me, and like I said, they come from very different sides of life, my family and both people within the business and people connected to the business, and then, like I said, outside mentorship as well, like direct sort of business coaching and whatnot. But it's great when you've got people around you that are going to disagree with you and tell you when they think you're missing the point, or you're heading down the wrong path, or something needs to be improved and something needs to be better. And I think it helps to remind yourself that generally speaking, I'm sure all these people just want the best for you and want the best for your business and want to see it flourish and whatnot. And so I think that's also super important, to be able to hear those hard truths when you're just going down the wrong path. And we all have those moments. Yeah.
So it's both inspiration and demotivation when you're going in the wrong area.
Accountability.
Yeah. So The Fearless Monkey by Justin Hine.
Dennis Hine.
Dennis Hine, The Fearless Monkey. I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah.
Are there any other books or movies that have been sort of great inspirations to you apart from that one?
Sure. One of the top directors of Julia Group globally is also a Dutch guy called Johan, and he introduced the Rockefeller habits to me.
As in the American dynasty family, Rockefeller.
Yeah, and it was written by an American guy, and that has a lot of really, really good practical sort of ways to set up the business, and that's what sort of integrated linking the one-page strategic plan and into the company, and that certainly really helps. I probably think one thing that stuck with me that was really valuable about that book though was aligning your personal life with your professional life. I think that's a huge challenge. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we live in a world where it's not as simple as much as we talk like this, it's not as simple as, hey, I'm at work, so I'm at work, and then I'm at home, and work doesn't exist while I'm at home. Our personal lives and professional lives are intrinsically linked every day, and I think if you can align that as in what you want to achieve professionally and what you're trying to achieve personally as well, I think that's really important, and something that he talks about in that book, and he talks about it as in, hey, you've got a one-page plan for your business, and maybe you should have a one-page plan for your personal life as well. I think that's really valuable, and something that also something that's becoming more important, frankly. If you agree, it's a crazy old world we're living in, and holistic health and all these things are really important, and so I think aligning your personal and professional goals is really important. Yeah,
I totally agree. I'd like you to do a one-page plan for my life, please. If you had to start over tomorrow, what's the first thing you do?
The first thing I do?
One-page plan?
Yeah, perhaps. That's probably maybe something I should do. Probably the first thing I do. Look, I think, wow, I've probably that's a really interesting question, and I think I've probably got a few answers to that, if I may. I think I definitely make sure that I surrounded myself with key people. That makes all the difference.
Who would be the first person? What role or kind of person?
Someone that I can work with that really, complements my skill set and I guess importantly, the skill set I don't have, I suppose. And that's something, I mentioned our operations manager, Katrina, earlier, and, she's someone that I work extremely closely with, and I think an immensely talented person, and I do believe we complement each other in our various skill sets. Not just to pick on her. I got many examples like her in our current business and organization. But I think it's so I think someone that can really, you don't need another you. You need someone that you don't have, I suppose.
Yeah. So a bit of introspection to start off with.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I also think we live in a world where I'd probably want to really develop an innovative business model that enables you to not build up too much liability too quickly and to be able to stay nimble and flexible. I think one of the beautiful things about growing and scaling is you have stores and warehouses and people and inventory and all these things, but what that also means is you've got a lot to keep humming.
Yeah, so that's all overheads.
Yeah, exactly. And I look at some of the really, amazing businesses that have taken over the world, like your Ubers and Airbnbs of the world. And sorry to use the cliche examples, but it's true. Yeah. And they, and you sort of look at how they did it and you go, how amazing, because if everything goes wrong tomorrow, they're fine. They shut down their computer and they're all good. We've got a lot more to worry about than that, I suppose. So I think that's kind of a bit of a dream.
It's barriers to entry though as well. As the AI tools and which are really pertinent to sort of website development specifically, and also creative and marketing and even business plans and strategies, as and all the rest of it. As that proliferates out through the market,
for sure,
having these bricks and mortar kind of operations is a massive advantage. Definitely,
and I think and that's where there's certain I think philosophies that never change. It's like what actually is your competitive advantage, and we're running into a world where as you said, that can be blurred and grey area, especially in the globalized digital world that we're operating in now. It's quite important to know, look, what is it that we're doing differently and what is our advantage over others? And for sure, it's a challenge to operate the inventory and the business model that we have, but perhaps, it's about actually turning that into, well, that actually is your competitive advantage against others, and what makes you different.
If you weren't running Kave Home in Australia, what would you be doing?
Oh, mate, 100% I'd be a rock star.
Rock star? Yeah. But what, singer?
Oh, mate, I don't know. Well, first of all, I need a lot of musical talent to come into this body somehow. Look, mate, guitarist. I'd love to be a rock star guitarist.
Rock star, but don't they only live to 27? Is it 26, 27?
Yeah, look, probably, but I'd be the Paul McCartney style. It just goes on forever. It just
evolves.
No, look, that's I don't know, mate. That's an interesting question. I think. I don't know. It's hard to think like that actually, because I really do love what I do here and really passionate, and
I feel like you are a bit synonymous with the
I'm
business.
Really lucky.
You're wearing the brand, but it's imbued into your DNA.
Yeah, a little bit. No, I do really love what I do here, but I think look, if we weren't doing this, it'd just have to be something with people. I think dealing with people is what's really what I really love, and
you get energy
something
from
in that
it.
World.
Yeah,
something from that world.
Yeah. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Just start thinking about the future, and probably building discipline and practices into my life to help you to achieve what goals you might have in the future, and I think that's really important, to be able to have a lifestyle and having things that you do on a daily, weekly basis that help you to keep getting up every day and be motivated and keep chasing.
Would your 18-year-old self had respected that?
No chance in hell.
And is there a local brand or business that you think smashing?
I actually had a really good experience the other weekend at a store called The Running Company.
Okay.
You might know them.
Yeah.
I think I do believe they're somewhat Australia-wide, but the store on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland I believe is privately owned. And I think what I really liked about it was they they really pride themselves on their community and their service, and their service was really excellent, especially when they're selling a product like running shoes, where there's quite a lot of avenues that you can buy that same shoe, but they don't sell on price. They pride themselves on understanding what your needs are and what you're looking. And I think that just sort of, I left there, that sort of spoke to me, sort of going, why was it that I really that I ended up purchasing from them, and it was just because of that service, and then seeing them expand that into having communities, and obviously things like running groups on the coast, and I imagine they do that in all their locations, and I thought that was really great.